My name is Maya Caldwell. I'm 26 years old, and I found out my father was dead through a Facebook notification.
It wasn't even a direct message, it was a tagged photo.
A picture of a floral wreath with a banner that said, "Rest in peace, Marcus," posted by a cousin I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. I was sitting at my desk at the tech startup where I work as a back-end engineer, staring at the screen, waiting for the joke to land. But the comments underneath were real. "So sorry for your loss. He was a great man. Prayers for Elena, my stepmother." If you enjoy stories about uncovering family secrets and fighting for the truth, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. I didn't cry immediately. I just felt a cold, hollow shock. My father was 58. He was an architect, a runner, a man who drank green smoothies and obsessively checked his blood pressure. He wasn't supposed to die. And I, his only daughter, wasn't supposed to find out about it on social media 3 days after it happened. I called Elena immediately. It went straight to voicemail. I called again and again. Finally, after the 5th try, she answered. Her voice was thick, groggy, and perfectly curated for a grieving widow. "Maya?" she whispered. "Oh, Maya, I didn't know how to tell you. He's dead?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Elena, is he really dead?" "It was a heart attack," she said, "Tuesday night. It was so sudden, I've been in a fog. I'm sorry I didn't call. I didn't think you'd want to be bothered." "Bothered?" The word hit me like a slap. "He's my dad, Elena. We haven't spoken in 3 years, but he's my dad." "I know," she sighed, a sound that implied my grief was an inconvenience. "But you know how things were, Maya. He was very hurt by your silence. He thought you moved on." That was the narrative she had spun for years. The silence. 3 years ago, my relationship with my father simply stopped. I would call, and Elena would answer saying he was busy or sleeping or out at a site visit. I would leave messages. He never called back. I sent birthday cards. I never got a thank you. Eventually, the rejection hurt too much, so I stopped calling every week and started calling every month. Then every 6 months. I assumed he was angry that I had chosen coding over joining his architecture firm. I assumed he had written me off. "When is the funeral?" I asked, gripping the phone. "Tomorrow," she said. 10 a.m., St. Jude's. You can come if you want, Maya, but please, don't make a scene. This is about honoring Marcus, not airing grievances. I drove 6 hours that night to get to my hometown. I didn't sleep. I stood in the back of the church the next morning, wearing a black dress that felt suffocating, watching strangers mourn my father. Elena sat in the front row, looking elegant in black lace, dabbing her eyes. She accepted hugs. She nodded solemnly. She played the part of the devastated wife perfectly. When she saw me, she didn't hug me. She gave me a tight, pitying smile. "I'm glad you came," she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Marcus would have forgiven you, I'm sure of it." Forgiven me for what? For trying to reach him? The real blow came 2 days later at the reading of the will. It was held in the mahogany-paneled office of Mr. Henderson, my father's longtime lawyer. The room smelled of old leather and tension. Elena sat across from me, looking composed. She had already started talking about listing the house and moving to a condo in Florida. "Let's proceed," Mr. Henderson said, opening a thick file. Marcus updated his will 4 years ago, shortly after his marriage to Elena. He read through the standard assets, the house, the investments, the firm. It was a substantial estate, built over 30 years of hard work. And now, Mr. Henderson adjusted his glasses, we come to the distribution of the primary assets. This section contains a specific clause regarding his daughter, Maya Caldwell. I sat up straighter. I didn't care about the money. I just wanted to know if he had left me a letter, a note, anything that explained why he stopped loving me. "The beneficiary condition clause," Mr. Henderson read. "To my daughter Maya, I leave the sum of $500,000, provided that at the time of my death, we are not in a state of estrangement. Estrangement is defined as a period of 12 months or longer with no direct contact. Visits or written correspondence initiated by my daughter." The room went silent. "If this condition is not met," Mr. Henderson continued, his voice flat, "then the portion designated for Maya Caldwell shall be forfeited and transferred in its entirety to my wife, Elena Caldwell, who has been my sole support in these difficult years. I felt the blood drain from my face. Estrangement? I whispered. I wasn't estranged by choice. I called. I sent emails. Mr. Henderson looked at me with sympathy but shook his head. Maya, according to the records Marcus kept, there has been no contact for 3 years. Elena has provided an affidavit confirming that you abandoned the relationship. I looked at Elena. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at her fingernails, a small, satisfied smirk playing on her lips.
He was heartbroken, Maya, she said softly. He waited for you to visit.
You never showed up. I tried, I shouted, standing up. I called the house. You told me he didn't want to talk to me. I never said that, she lied smoothly. I told you he was busy. You're the one who stopped calling. This is a setup, I said, my voice shaking. You knew about this clause. You knew if you kept me away long enough, you'd get everything. That is a serious accusation, Mr. Henderson warned. Unless you have proof of attempted contact phone logs, letters, emails that were responded to, the clause stands. The estate goes to Elena. I stormed out of the office, blinded by rage and grief. I had lost my father twice. Once to her lies, and now to his death. I drove to a motel on the edge of town. I sat on the lumpy bed, staring at the wall. She had won. She had engineered a legal estrangement to steal my inheritance. But then I remembered something. Elena said, unless you have emails that were responded to. I grabbed my laptop. I hadn't used my old college email address in years, the one I used to communicate with Dad before the silence began. I logged in, my fingers trembling. I went to the sent folder. I scrolled back 3 years. There were dozens of emails.
Hey, Dad, just checking in. Dad, are you okay?
Elena said you were sick, call me back. None of them had replies. But then I saw something odd. I clicked on a message from Christmas, 3 years ago. Status, read, it had been opened. And then I saw the IP address log in the header details. My father was old school.
He checked his email on a desktop computer in his study, but this email.
It had been opened on a mobile device, an iPhone. My father used a flip phone until the day he died. Elena had an iPhone. I sat back, my heart pounding. I didn't just have proof of contact. I had proof of interception. She didn't just steal my inheritance. She stole the last 3 years I could have had with my dad. Standing in that motel room with the IP logs on my screen, I realized I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was hunting. I spent the next 3 hours turning my motel room into a command center. I pulled the raw header data from every single email I had sent to my father over the last 36 months. The pattern was undeniable. Every email I sent had been read, but the user agent string, the line of code that identifies the device opening the message, didn't match my father's habits. My dad was a creature of habit. He used a massive Dell desktop with Windows 10 and Outlook 2016. I knew this because I was the one who set it up for him 5 years ago, forcing him to upgrade from Windows 7. But these emails? They were being accessed via iOS Mail 15.0. They were being opened on an iPhone. And the timestamps were damning. I would send an email at 2 p.m. It would be marked as read at 2:05 p.m. But my father worked on construction sites until 5 p.m. He never checked personal email during the day. He barely knew how to check it at night. Elena, however, didn't work. She spent her days managing the house and coordinating social events. I had the what, and I had the who. But I needed the how. Mr. Henderson, the lawyer, was a man of statutes and clauses. He wouldn't care about IP logs unless I could prove that my father never saw the messages. I needed to prove that Elena had actively blocked me from his view. I needed access to the physical machine. I needed my father's computer. I checked the time. It was 9 a.m. on a Friday. The funeral had been yesterday. Knowing Elena, she would be in cleanup mode. She would be erasing him from the house as fast as possible to prepare for the sale. If she wiped that computer, my proof would be gone forever. I drove to the house. When I pulled into the driveway, my stomach turned. A large dumpster was already sitting in the front yard. It was filled with black trash bags. She wasn't wasting any time. I walked to the front door and rang the bell. I didn't use my key. I wanted to gauge her reaction. Elena opened the door wearing a silk robe, holding a cup of coffee. She looked annoyed to see me, but she quickly masked it with that fake, tragic smile. Maya, she sighed. I thought you went back to the city. There's nothing left to discuss, is there? The will is clear. I'm not here about the money. I lied. I kept my voice calm, almost defeated. I'm leaving today, but I realized I don't have any photos of him, the albums from when I was a kid. Can I just grab a box from the study? Then I'll be out of your hair forever. She hesitated, her eyes flicked toward the staircase. She was weighing the risk. Finally, the desire to get rid of me outweighed her suspicion. She probably thought I was too emotional to be a threat. Fine, she said, stepping back. 10 minutes. I have the real estate agent coming at noon. I walked into the house. It was quiet. Too quiet. Pictures had already been taken off the walls. The mantel was bare. It felt like he had been erased. I went straight to the study. My father's desk was a mess of papers. But there it was, the Dell Tower, sitting under the desk, humming quietly. The monitor was asleep. I moved the mouse. The screen lit up. Password required. I froze. I used to know his password, but that was years ago. I tried the old standby. Blueprint 88, incorrect password. I heard Elena's footsteps downstairs. She was on the phone, her voice carrying through the vents. Yes, the movers can come Monday. I want the office cleared out first. Monday. I had 48 hours before this computer ended up in a landfill. But I had about 4 minutes right now. I tried another password. Madia 1999. Incorrect password. My chest tightened, of course. Why would he use my name if he thought I hated him? I looked around the desk for a clue. A sticky note? A notebook? Nothing. Then my eyes landed on a framed photo that Elena hadn't tacked yet. It was a picture of the two of them in Paris, taken on their honeymoon. I typed, Elena Paris. Incorrect. I typed, Elena 2019. Access granted. The desktop loaded. I didn't waste a second. I opened Outlook. The inbox was flooded with condolences, bill notifications, and work emails. I went to the search bar and typed my own name, Maya. 0 results. My heart stopped. Had she deleted them all? If she deleted them, I might be able to recover them from the server, but that would take a subpoena I didn't have. Then I noticed the sidebar. The folder list, inbox, sent, drafts, trash, junk, and below that a custom folder named Architecture Mags. It seemed innocuous. My dad subscribed to dozens of design journals, but why was it a subfolder of the inbox? I clicked it. Hundreds of emails populated the list. But they weren't from Architectural Digest. They were from me. Subject, Dad, please call me. Subject, happy birthday. Subject, I'm sorry if I did something wrong. They were all there, unread by him. Marked as read by the system. I right-clicked on the folder and selected Manage Rules. A rule popped up on the screen created 3 years ago, 2 weeks after I stopped visiting. Rule. If sender contains mia.caldwell@gmail.com, move to folder Architecture Mags and mark as read. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the screen. My hands were shaking. She had filtered me out. She had buried my voice in a folder he never opened, under a name he would ignore. But that didn't explain the estrangement clause. My dad wasn't cruel. Even if I stopped writing, he wouldn't have cut me off completely unless he had a reason. Unless he thought I was the aggressor. I went to the sent folder. I scrolled back. And then I saw it. There were emails sent to me. Emails I had never received. 2. Mia Caldwell from Marcus Caldwell subject. Your request. Maya, I am heartbroken that you would ask for money again. If you don't want to be part of this family unless I pay off your student loans, then stay away. Do not contact Elena again. I stared at the screen. I had never asked for money. I paid off my own loans, and then I saw the reply. An email from me, from mia.caldwell.dev@gmail.com to Marcus Caldwell subject. Fine. Fine, old man, keep your money. I hope you rot in that house. Don't expect to see me at your funeral, I gasped. The email address wasn't mine. My email was maya.caldwell@gmail.com. This one had an extra double quotes, Dav, at the end. It was a spoof account. Elena hadn't just blocked me. She had created a fake version of me. She had been having a conversation with my father as me for 3 years, tearing his heart out piece by piece, making him believe his daughter was a monster. Find what you were looking for. I spun around. Elena was standing in the doorway of the study. She wasn't holding coffee anymore. She was holding a pair of heavy brass scissors she used for gardening. And the smile was gone. Standing in that study, staring at the woman who had systematically erased me from my father's life, I realized that the brass scissors in her hand weren't for gardening. They were for intimidation. You're not supposed to be in here, Maya, Elena said, her voice ice cold. She didn't raise the scissors, but she didn't lower them either. Her knuckles were white against the brass handles. I know what you did, I said, holding up my phone. I have pictures of the screen, Elena. I know about the email rule. I know about the fake account. She didn't flinch. A flicker of calculation passed behind her eyes. She took a step into the room, closing the distance between us. You have pictures of a computer screen. That's your proof. Maya, honey, you're a developer. Everyone knows you can Photoshop anything in 5 minutes. It's not Photoshop. It's on the server, I countered, though my confidence wavered. I knew how fragile digital evidence could be. And who has the computer? She asked, a smirk touching her lips. By the time you get a court order, this hard drive will be drilled, magnetized, and sitting at the bottom of a landfill. And the internet service, cancelled as of this morning. No logs, no history. She motioned toward the door with the scissors. Get out. Before I call the police and tell them my estranged, unstable stepdaughter broke in and threatened a grieving widow. I looked at the computer, then at her. She was right. If I tried to take the tower, she'd call the cops. If I stayed, she'd call the cops. I had to leave, but I had to play it cool. Fine, I said, backing out of the room. Enjoy the money, Ilona. I hope it's worth it. I walked out of the house, my heart hammering against my ribs. As I reached my car, I saw her watching me from the window, phone in hand. She was probably calling her IT guy right now to wipe the drive. I drove straight to Mr. Henderson's office. I didn't have an appointment, but I barged past the receptionist. Mr. Henderson, you need to freeze the assets, I said, throwing my phone onto his desk. Look at this. He put on his glasses and scrolled through the photos I had taken. The email rules. The fake messages from Maya.Caldwell-Dove, the hateful replies my father had received. Mr. Henderson frowned, leaning back in his chair. This is disturbing, Maya. If true, this is fraud. Perhaps even tortious interference with an inheritance. It is true. She blocked me and impersonated me. But, Henderson sighed, sliding the phone back to me. Elena is right about one thing. Photos of a screen are not forensic evidence. In court, she will argue that you created these images, or that you hacked the account yourself to frame her. Without the metadata, without the EP logs from the service provider, it's he said, she said, and the estrangement clause is strict. The burden of proof is on you. So what do? I pleaded. She's wiping the computer right now. You need to link that fake account directly to her, Henderson said, tapping his pen. Prove she created it. Prove she controls it. If you can show that Maya.Caldwell.Dev is linked to her personal information, I can file an emergency injunction to stop the probate process, but I need it fast. The funds transfer in 48 hours. 48 hours. I left the office and went to a Starbucks. I bought a black coffee I didn't drink and opened my laptop. I cracked my knuckles. I was a developer. I spent my life fixing broken code. This was just a logic puzzle. Objective: prove Elena owns Maya.Caldwell.Dev@gmail.com. I couldn't hack Google. That was impossible. But I could use Google's own security against her. I went to the Gmail login page. I typed in the fake address, Maya.Caldwell.Dev@gmail.com. I clicked Forgot Password. Google's recovery system kicked in. Enter the last password you remember using with this Google account. I didn't know it. I clicked Try another way. The screen changed. Get a verification code. Google will send a verification code to 12. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The phone number ended in 12. My father's phone number ended in 45. My number ended in 99. Elena's number? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to her contact. Elena Mobile, 55501928812. It was a match, but it wasn't enough. A judge might say it's a coincidence. There are thousands of phone numbers ending in 12. I clicked try another way again. Get a verification code. Google will send a verification code to Lel. Helena's personal email, the one she used for her yoga classes and socialite gossip, was elena.caldwell@yahoo.com. The pattern matched perfectly. I took screenshots, but again, Mr. Henderson's voice rang in my head. She will argue you manipulated the images. I needed something concrete. I needed her to admit it. I needed to trap her. I sat there staring at the flashing cursor. I knew Elena. She was arrogant. She thought I was stupid. And right now, she thought she was safe because I had left the house. I opened a terminal on my laptop. I wasn't going to hack her. I was going to phish her. It was risky. If it failed, she would know I was onto her, but I had no choice. I quickly coded a simple, legitimate-looking landing page. It looked exactly like the law firm's secure document portal. I bought a domain that looked similar to Mr. Henderson's firm. https://www.com search q equals hendersonlaw-secure.com. Then I drafted an email. From admin@hendersonlaw-secure.com to maya.caldwell.dev@gmail.com. Subject: Final notice regarding estate settlement. Dear Ms. Maya Caldwell, per the instructions of the late Marcus Caldwell, a secondary trust fund has been located in your name. To release these funds, $150,000. Please confirm your identity by clicking the link below and logging in. I knew two things about Elena. She was greedy. If she saw mention of more money, she wouldn't be able to resist checking. She was likely monitoring the fake account like a hawk, terrified I would try to email Dad again. If she clicked that link, my server would log her IP address, her device type, and her location. And since she was at the house where I knew the IP address from the header photos, and I was at Starbucks, I hit send. I watched my server logs. 5 minutes passed, nothing. 10 minutes, nothing. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Elena. Stop harassing me. Maya, the police are on their way to the house to file a report about your break-in. She was bluffing. Or maybe she wasn't. 15 minutes. Then, the terminal on my screen flashed green. Incoming request. IP 68.142.xx.xx. Matches house IP. Device: iPhone 13 Pro. Matches user agent. She had logged into the fake account. She had opened the email. She had clicked the link. I had her. But as I stared at the data, another line of text appeared in the log. She didn't just click the link. She had replied to the email. I refreshed my inbox. A new email from maya.caldwell.dev had arrived. Nice try, Maya. But did you really think I'd fall for a phishing scam? You're smarter than that. But not smart enough. My stomach dropped. She knew, but then I looked closer at the reply. In her arrogance, in her haste to taunt me, she had made a mistake. A massive, catastrophic mistake. She hadn't signed it Maya. At the bottom of the email, automatically appended by her iPhone's mail settings because she was rushing, was her default signature. Sent from my iPhone, Elena C. I stared at the screen, laughing. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the hysterical, breathless laugh of a woman who just watched a bomb defuse itself 1 second before detonation. Sent from my iPhone, Elena C. In her arrogance, in her desperate need to have the last word and mock me, she had forgotten the one thing that plagues every iPhone user in a rush: the default signature. She had replied from the fake account, maya.caldwell.dev, but her phone had automatically stamped her real identity at the bottom. It was the digital fingerprint she couldn't wipe away. I didn't reply. I didn't text her back. I slammed my laptop shut, grabbed my coffee, and sprinted to my car. I drove to Mr. Henderson's office like I was fleeing a crime scene. When I burst into his office, he was on the phone, looking annoyed.
He hung up when he saw my face.
Maya, I told you, he began, without forensic evidence. Look, I interrupted, breathless. I threw the laptop open on his desk and pointed to the email chain. Read the bottom. Henderson adjusted his glasses. He read the taunt. He read the header, and then he read the signature.
He froze, a slow, incredulous smile spread across his face.
She sent this.
From the fraud account? He asked. Yes, and she signed it with her own name, accidentally. This, Henderson said, standing up and grabbing his coat, is admissible. It links the device in her possession directly to the account impersonating you. It proves she had control over the correspondence that led to the estrangement. He hit the intercom button on his desk. Sarah, draft an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order on the Caldwell estate assets. Attach this email as Exhibit A and call Judge Miller. Tell him it's fraud. What happens now? I asked, my adrenaline still spiking. Now, Henderson said, his eyes hard, we go to the house. We need to serve her with the injunction before she destroys that phone. That device is now the most important piece of evidence in the state. We took Henderson's car. The drive to the house felt agonizingly slow. I kept checking my phone, expecting a text from Elena saying she had burned the house down. She knew she had messed up. I knew she knew. The silence was terrifying. When we pulled into the driveway, the dumpster was still there. But now there was smoke rising from the backyard. She's burning something, I said, unbuckling my seatbelt before the car even stopped. Stay calm, Mia, Henderson warned. Let me do the talking. We ran around the side of the house to the patio. Elena was standing by the stone fire pit. She wasn't burning leaves. She was throwing papers into the flames. File folders, notebooks, and in her other hand, she held the iPhone. She looked up, her eyes wide and wild. She looked like a cornered animal. The elegant widow facade was gone. Her hair was messy, her face pale. You can't be here, she screamed, stepping back toward the fire. I called the police. They're on their way.
We know, Henderson shouted, holding up a folder.
And they'll be very interested to see what you're destroying, Elena. I have a court order freezing the estate. If you throw that phone in the fire, you are committing a felony, destruction of evidence. It's my phone, she yelled, her voice cracking. I can do whatever I want with it. She held it over the flames. The heat rippled the air around her hand. Elena, don't. I stepped forward. It's over. We have the email, we have the signature. Even if you burn the phone, the server logs are already saved. You're just making it worse. She hesitated. She looked at the phone, then at me. I saw the calculation in her eyes. She was doing the math. If she destroyed the phone, she might avoid the fraud charge, but she'd go to jail for destruction of evidence. If she kept it, she lost the money. You ruined everything, she spat at me, tears of rage streaming down her face. He was happy. We were happy. You were just a ghost, Maya. Why couldn't you stay a ghost? Because he was my father, I said, my voice steady. And you made him die thinking I hated him. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not the polite chirp of a patrol car coming to take a report, but the urgent wail of multiple units. Henderson had called them on the way over, reporting an active felony in progress. Elena heard them too. Her hand trembled. She looked at the fire, then at the phone. For a second, I thought she was going to throw it in. But Elena was, above all things, a survivor. She knew when she was beaten. She let out a scream of frustration and threw the phone knot into the fire, but onto the grass at my feet. It landed with a soft thud. Take it, she shrieked. Take it and get out. You want his money so bad? Take it. It's all he ever cared about anyway. I picked up the phone. The screen was cracked, but it was still on. I saw the notification on the lock screen. Gmail. Security alert. New login from Windows PC. It was the alert from when I had logged in at the lawyer's office. I looked at her. He didn't care about the money, Elena. He cared about his family. That's why you had to work so hard to keep us apart. The police cars pulled into the driveway, lights flashing against the twilight. Officers swarmed the backyard. Elena Caldwell? One officer shouted, "Step away from the fire." She slumped her shoulders, the fight draining out of her. She didn't look at me as they walked her toward the cruiser. She just stared at the house she had schemed for, lied for, and ultimately lost everything for. Mr. Henderson put a hand on my shoulder. You got her, Maya. The secret inheritor clause is null and void. The fraud vitiates the condition. I don't care about the clause, I said, gripping the phone tightly. I just want to see what she deleted. I unlocked her phone. She hadn't changed the passcode from 0,000 and opened the mail app. I went to the trash folder. And there, sitting at the bottom of the digital heap, was the one thing I needed to see. The one thing that proved my father hadn't died hating me. It was a draft, an email he had tried to write 3 days before he died, but never sent because Elena must have snatched the phone or interrupted him. Subject: Maya. I clicked it open. I stood in the driveway, the blue and red lights of the police cruisers washing over me, reading the words of a dead man. It wasn't just an email. It was a vindication. The draft was dated 3 days before his heart attack. The subject line was just Maya. Sweetheart, I don't know if you're getting these. Elena tells me you changed your number. She tells me you sent another angry letter asking for money. But today, when she was out at the salon, I found a photo of us from your graduation in the kitchen trash. Why would you send a hateful letter and then throw away a memory? It doesn't make sense. My memory isn't what it used to be. The pills she gives me make me so tired, but my heart knows you. You aren't cruel. I fear I have made a terrible mistake trusting the wrong people. If you are reading this, please, come home. Just walk through the door. I'll be in the study, waiting. I've hidden the blue notebook inside the old drafting tube, the one labeled Hudson Project. It has everything. I love you, Dad. I lowered the phone. Tears blurred my vision, hot and stinging. He hadn't hated me. He was confused, isolated, and likely overmedicated. But in the end, his instinct as a father was stronger than her lies. He knew. Maya? Mr. Henderson asked softly. Are you okay? He knew, I choked out. He hid something for me. Inside the house. While the police finished processing the scene and hauling Elena away, she was screaming about her lawyer, about her rights, about how she was the victim. I walked back into the silent house. It didn't feel like a stranger's house anymore. It felt like a crime scene that needed to be solved. I went to the study. I ignored the mess on the desk and went straight to the corner where my father kept his architectural rolls. There were dozens of cardboard tubes stacked in a wire bin. I searched through them frantically. City Center, the Vales, West End Library, and there it was. The Hudson Project. I popped the plastic cap off the tube. Inside, there were no blueprints. Instead, there was a worn blue moleskin notebook. I opened it. It wasn't just a journal. It was a log. February 12th, Elena says Maya called. Says she wants $10,000. I told her to say no. Why won't she speak to me directly? August 4th, found my cell phone in Elena's purse. She said I lost it. Messages deleted. October 20th. I tried to drive to Maya's apartment. Elena took the keys. Sighed I was too sick to drive. Page after page of a man fighting to understand why his daughter had abandoned him. Documenting the gaslighting in real time. But the last entry, dated a week ago, was the most important. I am changing the will. I called Henderson's competitor, Mr. Davis. He is coming Tuesday to draft a new version. Elena doesn't know. Everything goes to Maya, no conditions. He died on Tuesday. The day the new lawyer was supposed to come, my blood ran cold. The heart attack was sudden, convenient, but without an autopsy we would never know if it was induced or natural. However, with the evidence of fraud and elder abuse in this notebook, coupled with the email spoofing, Elena was finished. The legal fallout was swift and brutal. Mr. Henderson didn't just file for a restraining order. He filed a civil suit for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with expectation of inheritance. The police charged her with identity theft and computer fraud. Elena tried to fight it. She hired a shark of a defense attorney who tried to claim the notebook was a forgery, that the emails were a prank. But the digital footprint I had uncovered, the IP logs, the device ID, the accidental signature was bulletproof. 6 months later, rather than face a jury that would have undoubtedly hated her, Elena took a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to 2 counts of fraud. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison, with a mandatory repayment of all funds she had siphoned from my father's accounts over the last 3 years. She lost the condo in Florida. She lost the Range Rover. She lost her social standing. As for me, I inherited the estate. The estrangement clause was declared void by the judge, ruled as having been triggered by the malicious and fraudulent interference of the beneficiary Elena. I moved back into the house. It took me 3 months to clean it out. I threw away every trace of her. The beige furniture, the sterile art, the black lace curtains. I repainted the walls. I brought back my father's old drafting table. But I didn't keep the money for myself. My father was an architect. He built things. He believed in foundations. I used the bulk of the inheritance to start the Marcus Caldwell Foundation. We provide full-ride scholarships for architecture students who come from broken homes, kids who, like me, needed a chance to build something of their own. Yesterday, I was working in the study writing code for the foundation's website. I looked over at the shelf where I keep the blue notebook. It's the most valuable thing I own. Not because it won me a court case, but because it gave me the truth. My phone buzzed. It was an email notification. From St. Jude's Hospital subject, donation received. It was a thank you note for a donation made in Elena's name. I send a small one every year on the anniversary of my father's death. Not to honor her, but to remind myself that even the worst people can be turned into something good if you rewrite the code. I closed my laptop and looked out the window. The sun was setting over the driveway where I had almost driven away that day. I thought about the secret inheritor clause. Elena thought it was her safety net. She thought if she could just keep us apart, she would win. She forgot the first rule of architecture. If the foundation is built on lies, the whole house eventually collapses. And I was the one holding the sledgehammer.